What does the Bible say about heaven? We're going to be diving into a lot of things that the scriptures teach us. We used to live there. There was a plan presented. Jesus was chosen. There was a war. There are 3 heavens described in the scriptures. How do we go to the highest heaven? Let's dive right in. What is heaven? Well, let's look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So heaven is separate from the earth. Heaven is where God dwells. Let's look at Ecclesiastes 12, verse 7. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. So we're God's children. We used to live with God before we were born. Our bodies are created of the dust of the earth, and when we die, our spirits return to God. Now we will be resurrected, but that's not what this video is about. Now let's look at Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Another verse talking about how this is all a part of God's master plan, the plan of salvation, and that we lived with God before we were born, and He has a plan for us. Let's look at a verse in the book of Mormon. This is Helaman chapter 14, verse 17. But behold, the resurrection of Christ redeemeth mankind, yea, even all mankind, and bringeth them back into the presence of the Lord. In order to go back into God's presence, we obviously lived with Him before we were born. Now, there was a grand council in heaven in this pre-earth life. In Job chapter 38, verse 7, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. God presented a plan to us. He let us know that there was a way that we could progress and become more like Him. We were very happy about that, and God presented His plan to us, but there was another plan that was proposed by Lucifer. This caused a division. This caused a war in heaven. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. We get more detail on this if we look in Abraham chapter 3, verses 22 through 28. Now the Lord had shown unto me, Abraham, the intelligences that were organized before the world was. And among all these there were many of the noble and great ones. And God saw these souls that they were good. And He stood in the midst of them, and He said, These I will make my rulers. For He stood among those that were spirits, and He saw that they were good. And He said unto me, Abraham, thou art one of them. Thou wast chosen before thou wast born. Now Abraham was told in a vision that this was all a part of God's plan, and that his calling as a prophet came before he was even born. And continuing in verse 24, And there stood one among them that was like unto God. And He said unto those that were with him, We will go down, for there is space there, and we will take of these materials, and we will make an earth whereon these may dwell. And we will prove them herewith, to see if they will do all things whatsoever the Lord their God shall command them. And they who keep their first estate shall be added upon. And they who keep not their first estate shall not have glory in the same kingdom with those who keep their first estate. And they who keep their second estate shall have glory added upon their heads forever and ever. And the Lord said, Whom shall I send? And one answered, Like unto the Son of Man, Here am I, send me. And another answered and said, Here am I, send me. And the Lord said, I will send the first. And the second was angry, and kept not his first estate. And at that day many followed after him. We learn that there are multiple kingdoms prepared depending on if we keep our first estate or if we don't. And we also learn about the role of Jesus Christ and the fall of Lucifer becoming Satan. In Isaiah 14, verse 12, How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Let's talk about these multiple heavens, okay, the 3 degrees of glory. If we look at 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2, I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell. God knoweth. Such an one caught up to the 3rd heaven. So this specific account doesn't go into a lot of detail, but we know if there's a 3rd heaven, there must be a first and a second. We get more detail if we look at 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 40 and 41. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. So this is talking about 2 things at the same time. It's talking about these 3 heavens. There's a celestial kingdom, a terrestrial kingdom, and a telestial kingdom. But there's also celestial bodies and terrestrial bodies and telestial bodies. When we are resurrected, we'll be determined what type of body we receive and what kingdom we go to. We get more detail on this in Doctrine and Covenants, section 96, verse 92. And thus we saw the glory of the celestial, which excels in all things, where God, even the Father, reigns upon his throne forever and ever. And if we look in section 78, verse 7, for if you will that I give unto you a place in the celestial world, you must prepare yourselves by doing the things which I have commanded you and required of you. Let's go to the next chapter, 88, verses 15 through 24. And the spirit and the body are the soul of man, and the resurrection from the dead is the redemption of the soul. And the redemption of the soul is through him that quickeneth all things, in whose bosom is decreed that the poor and the meek of the earth shall inherit it. Therefore it must needs be sanctified from all unrighteousness, that it may be prepared for the celestial glory. For after it hath filled the measure of its creation, it shall be crowned with glory, even with the presence of God the Father, that bodies who are of the celestial kingdom may possess it forever and ever. For this intent was it made and created, and for this intent are they sanctified. And they who are not sanctified through the law which I have given unto you, even the law of Christ, must inherit another kingdom, even that of the terrestrial kingdom, or that of the telestial kingdom. For he who is not able to abide the law of a celestial kingdom cannot abide a celestial glory. And he who cannot abide the law of the terrestrial kingdom cannot abide a terrestrial glory. And he who cannot abide the law of a telestial kingdom cannot abide a telestial glory. Therefore he is not meet for a kingdom of glory. Therefore he must abide a kingdom which is not a kingdom of glory. It is so excited to learn doctrine like this from the words of prophets. I put a link to another video that I want you to watch. It's Do Prophets Still Exist Today? You're going to love this one.